Welcome to The Voice of Retail. I'm Michael LeBlanc, NRF Top Retail Voice for 2026 and Rethink Retail 2026 Top Retail Expert. This podcast is produced in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. This episode is brought to you by Connect, Canada's way to pay. Visit connect.ca to learn more. According to my guest on this episode, most retail strategies don't fail because they're bad ideas. They fail because they're poorly executed. Meet Kevin Ertell, veteran retail operator, fellow Rethink Retail Top Retail Expert, and the author of the brand new book, The Strategy Trap: Why Companies Fail at Execution and How to Get It Right. Kevin joins me live on the NRF Big Show trade show floor in New York City in the Remarkable Retail Pop-Up Narvar podcasting studio to share practical insights from his career at Tower Records, Nike, and, of course, from his new book, including The 6 C's of Execution, a framework for building alignment, focus, and momentum. Kevin, welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast, my friend. How are you?
Thank you. It's good to be here, sir. I'm doing well.
Well, we are live here at the Big Show in the Big Apple. We're in, thanks to my friends at Narvar. We're in the Narvar podcasting studio.
Thank you, Narvar.
Thank you, Narvar. It's great to see you. You and I saw each other at Commerce Next here in New York, and there was some inkling, more than an inkling in your eye about a book coming out.
It was,
and I'm looking down. We're not on TV here, but I see a physical embodiment of all that work.
Actually, in real life.
Coming to life.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
good.
Let's just, I've got to jump right in. You and I know each other, but perhaps other people do not. Who are you? And tell us a bit about your background in retail particularly and what you do today.
Yeah, so Kevin Ertell. I've been in retail pretty much my whole career. I actually started on the ground floor, as a clerk at Tower Records when I was 17 years old. And worked my way up at Tower Records over a 20-year career to become senior vice president.
Wow.
I've been at executive roles at other retailers like Borders, Sur La Table, and I spent 7 years at Nike.
Now, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio. Now, where do you live today?
We moved back to Cleveland, Ohio about a year and a half ago.
What's that like?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Fantastic.
Cleveland's an incredible city.
I spent a lot of time in Ohio because it was a great destination for soccer tournaments early in the season for Canadians, right? We'd come down. You'd have that enough weather difference that we could get some early tournaments in. So, and it's a quick drive as well.
Not many people go to Cleveland for the warmer weather, so that's something.
It's crazy Canadians. What are we doing? And what do you do like today? Like you wrote a book, but how do you spend your time?
Yeah, I wrote the book, but I have a consultancy called Mistere Advisory. I work with CEOs and C-level people on strategic execution and helping people really understand and build strategies that are executable.
Well, we are here, as the listeners probably have figured out, to talk about your brand new book, The Strategy Trap: Why Companies Fail at Execution and How to Get It Right.
That is it.
That's a big handle, man. That's a big topic. So tell us about, I'm always curious when I talk to authors, your tradecraft for writing the book. Is this, this has been building up for your entire career and I just got to get it out onto paper, or were there some new insights? You say, I wasn't sure I was going to write a book, but now I want to write a book. And how did you approach it? Did you, chain yourself to a desk for an hour a day, or tell me about your experience writing it.
I mean, it's a little bit of a mix of that. I've always been really passionate about execution and actually getting stuff done rather than just being about the theory. And I knew that most strategies fail. There's so much data about that, and the number one reason they fail is poor execution. So, I look out on the marketplace, there's a million books on how to write a strategy.
I was going to say, yeah.
But there's not that many on execution, and the majority of the ones that are on execution are written by consultants and academics. So I really wanted to write something from an operator's perspective. And not just my perspective either, but I have my point of view and my ideas, but I interviewed over 60 other operators across all sorts of industries, all sorts of company sizes, to try to gain, and my goal is to get 1,000 years of wisdom pulled into the book. But then the idea was that, hey, I want this to be really useful and practical. I don't want this to be about theory. I want it to be about actual techniques that people can go and use right away to help better execute their strategies.
Who should read the book? And you know what you say about a lesser amount of books about execution for sure, but when I think about books about execution and strategy, they can get quite technical.
Yep.
Like formula, like even to formulas, which is not my vibe.
Right.
It's not everybody's vibe, some people's vibe. But
Yeah.
but who should read this book, and where do you think it fits in on the shelf? Where did you see that white space?
I think CEOs and C-level people should read it. That was my first audience, but really any VP or any leader who was, developing and executing strategies would benefit from it. I think that it sits on the shelf more with leadership books than strategy books.
Okay.
Because really, when I talk about the strategy trap, what I mean is when companies get all excited about the idea and the presentation, and they forget about all the conditions you have to create for humans to actually bring it to life.
Interesting.
So the book is about those conditions. And so I think that makes it more about leadership, working with humans to help them, be in the best position to successfully bring something to life.
I find sometimes when I talk to, and this is a different context, but, when I talk to economists, and we got into a debate about a bunch of things, and I said, you're assuming a rational actor model here in a particular context. And I think, is that where the mental disconnect happens? I mean, these leaders have grown up in business, and they would know better, if I want to phrase it differently. But where does the disconnect happen with it'll just happen because it makes sense and people will do a great job because I hired great people? Is that we're kind of, what's the genesis, if I can say, or the epistemology of the disconnect?
I think it is assumption. I think you use that word assumption, and there is just too many assumptions that you've created this great thing. I talk about communication sometimes as critical to it, but the example I like to give is, we've all been in loud bars and had conversations with somebody, right? And you're talking to somebody in a loud bar, and you don't maybe understand everything they're saying, but, when they smile, you smile. When they laugh, you laugh. You kind of...
You fill in the gaps a little bit.
Yeah, you're filling in the gaps, right? But when you flip that around and you're on the other side of that, you're talking, they're laughing when you laugh. They're smiling when you smile. Of course, they heard everything you said, right? They fully got it.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a little bit of that scenario. You create the strategy, and of course, you get it. You understand it. You told everybody what it is. What's the problem?
Next thing. I'm on to the next thing. Just how big's the bonus check going to be, right?
Exactly.
Let's dive in. So you start the book with a familiar story to me and to many, but not to everyone, the whole Ron Johnson, J.C. Penney. I met Ron. I've actually interviewed Ron in one of his next iterations, something he launched, I think, about a home install and helping people get. Right. So he and I know many people who grew up under him at Apple and just thought he was the most amazing leader, as did J.C. Penney when they hired him. And the story is he came in. I'll let you. The story might be well known. I'm more interested in your interpretation, but he came in and he said, "Listen, we're going to do things different." So pick it up from there and tell us about what happened.
Well, he came into JCPenney and very quickly announced a new strategy called the Fair and Square strategy. He looked at their business and thought, hey, we're doing all these coupons.
And their competitors who weren't doing a lot of coupons, right?
All that.
Everyday low pricing, so yeah.
And he said, we're not going to have these coupons. We're just going to make it everyday low pricing.
Simple.
Yeah, simple, right? But he did not gain really any alignment within the company. And the biggest thing is they didn't test that. They went to all the stores immediately. And the customers hated it because the customers love the thrill of the hunt. They love the idea of getting a little bit of gamification.
It's fun. And
exactly. They love that. And because he didn't do any testing, because he didn't go deep into the organization to understand it, it failed miserably.
Yeah. Well, not miserably, epically. Epically. The business case failure kind of grade.
Right.
Right.
Stock dropped 55%.
Yeah. I know. I'm not sure JCPenney would have wound up any different place if this wouldn't have happened today. But
hard to say because that's such an epically bad way to do it. Maybe there was a germ of a good idea in there, but it was executed so poorly with no chance to
which
succeed.
It always strikes me. It's an interesting story because he's a veteran operator and did wonderful work at Apple and would know better. But is it this kind of assumption? And listen, I got it right. It's also leadership lessons, right?
Yeah.
I got the fix. Let's just do it. It's simple. We're going to go, and the customer's going to love it.
Yeah, I think it could be. JCPenney customer is very different from the Apple customer. JCPenney operations, how they do everything, very different from how Apple does everything. You can't just take the Apple formula and drop it on JCPenney. Not that I'm saying he did that, but I think it's super important within any organization to understand the dynamics of that organization and validate what it is you're doing rather than just push it out there.
Let's expand the lens a little bit. So all leadership, and lots of people listening to the podcast, they may be in a leadership position or working in retail. Like, where is it that the strategy and the execution fall off? We've kind of been circling around. We've got a couple of hypotheses, but where and how do they keep falling into this strategy trap?
So one of the things I think is the most important concept to recognize is that writing the strategy should be the first step of execution, not something that happens before execution. Because when you do that, the first thing I talk about in the book is co-creation. Bring people in to co-create that strategy with you. Not just your fellow executives, bring a variety of people in with different perspectives. When you do that, you get alignment, you get buy-in, then you can kind of get into validation like we're talking about, and ultimately those lead to commitment. And when you have those elements all together, you're getting ready to start off on the right foot.
Right. And I guess it also is other inputs into the ideas.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a pretty important piece. And I've seen that happen in meetings I've been in. It's like, we're doing this strategy. What would you like to tell us about it?
Right.
Versus help us put a strategy together.
Help us put it together. Have you ever heard of the IKEA effect?
No.
So there was a group of professors. They did this experiment. And what they did is they took some pre-built IKEA furniture and they gave that to a few groups of people. And they took a few other groups of people and they gave them the same furniture but in the box, unbuilt, and had them build it. They asked each group of people what they would value that furniture for. So the people who built it themselves valued it 63% higher than the people who just got it.
Interesting.
And that is the value of creating something. You create it, you own it, you're part of it, you feel much more involved in it and value it much higher. And it's the same concept for a strategy.
Well, it's let's keep digging in onto this co-creation idea. I mean, it's really, what does it practically look like? I was talking to a retailer preparing for the interview, and I was struck by talking to retailers about how they're practically using AI with employees. And one of them said something super interesting, that, we do these surveys all the time, and the open fields were a nightmare, right? How do you collect all that information? And they said, I'm using AI, and I'm actually getting some great stuff out of it. So are the tools now better for that kind of collecting of the wisdom of the crowds? And, so you can have a couple of, would you recommend a couple of layers? Like, 10,000 employees, ask them a question, and it used to be, just hard. You get the data and you just couldn't manage it. Now you got a little bit better. You got maybe a tool or two, and then you got mid-management, senior management. Is this the, I don't want to call it a hierarchy, but is this the structure that can work and contribute in this co-creation? It
is, and I think it's important when you're doing the validation part of co-creation to use structured feedback in a few ways. I mean, one of it might be surveys. I talk about a couple other methods in there that you can go out and get representative groups of people and do some actual exercises with them. I think you need to do a variety of these tools and exercises that are really easy to execute. They're not hard to do. And to your point, like if you're going to do a big survey and get open-ended responses, AI can be super helpful for that. The first key is that you're actually going out and pressure testing things, and use any method you want, but starting to do that and understanding that there are different perspectives and there are blind spots and gaps in your knowledge, and that you're actively seeking to find them before you go implement something. You're already on the right path. Should retailers have a red team for all these strategy projects? The idea of we're going to put a strategy together and we're going to build a team that is going to be there to kind of criticize and poke holes in it. Not more than being the, which phrase I hate. I'm going to want to be the devil's advocate here, which gives you permission to kind of like poo all over everything. I find, but a true red team that says we're going to take that thing and we've decided, we're going to poke holes in it. Sometimes it's called the 11th man or 10th man strategy. Love that idea. That's another way to validate. But being structured and being actively looking for ways to make it better before you unleash it on the entire organization is going to get you in a much better shape. I like that word, unleash. Speaking of unleashing it, you come up with this idea of slowing down to speed up. Yep. And, my experience of strategy and as an operator itself is, you're kind of, sometimes they've been described as you're trying to change the tires on an airplane going from coast to coast or whatever. So you still got to put the numbers up. The operating challenges don't go away.
and the strategy becomes kind of a project you just got to get through and done because, hey, Christmas is coming up or whatever. So what's your advice to retailers, practical advice? You've been in these chairs. You're both an operator and a strategist. What's your advice to how to really get this done?
Yeah, you have to make space for it. I mean, too often I hear that phrase, we're just going to have to build the plane while we're flying it. And to me, that's like, would you get on a plane that was still being built?
I always thought the same thing. Good luck with that.
Right, but people say it all the time, and they're like, well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so you're actually telling that to your team. You're saying, like, I expect you to get on this plane that's still being built and, like, risk your life and career.
Yeah.
Go.
Is it done yet?
Yeah, and it's crazy. So, when I talk about slow down to speed up, I don't mean go slow. But what I mean is take the time to set the stage. Take the time to put the conditions in place so you can speed up later. Because if you don't do that, you're going to slow down anyways in a much worse way later when things all start to fall apart. Pay for it now or
pay for it later, right?
Yeah, and, I'd rather pay for it on the easy path than down the road, when it's really falling apart.
I was looking at a presentation from a client back from a few years ago, and they sent me their kind of the strategy. Here's what we're going to do. And there's like 23 things.
Yeah.
And first of all, I'm not sure those are tactics or strategies, but putting that aside, I feel like my philosophy has been high-performing organizations can maybe do 5 things.
Yeah.
Average organizations, most can do 3 well. Do you align with that? And is that your kind of advice? You're talking about slowing down, not in the pace, but it's also a scope and a scale thing too, right?
It's absolutely about that and prioritizing. I think the essence of strategy is choice. You're making choices. Mm-hmm. And if you're making choices, that means you're having to say no to things. I don't know the exact... There's a famous Steve Jobs quote where he talks about, people think focus is saying yes to the thing that matters the most, but it's really saying no to 100 other really good ideas. You can't think you're going to do all these things at once. You're not going to, and you're telling the team that nothing is really important.
Right. It's kind of like... If everything's important, then nothing is.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm a huge proponent of stack ranking priorities too. That means there's one number 1, one number 2, one number 3, one number 4. Because that hard work up front, making those decisions, makes the 10,000 decisions the teams have to make down the road a lot easier because they understand, where things sit. Here's an interesting fact for you. Did you know that the word priority was a singular word until 100 years ago?
No.
It wasn't a plural.
Interesting.
So we've completely ruined that.
How many priorities do I have in my day today?
Right.
We'll be right back with Kevin Ertell and his great book, The Strategy Trap, Why Companies Fail at Execution and How to Get It Right, recently nominated as a finalist in the National Indie Excellence Awards, right after this message. Abandoned carts and chargebacks are costly for Canadian retailers selling online. Today's shoppers want more than convenience. They expect trust. Connect delivers that. Powered by Interac and backed by Canada's leading banks, Connect is a digital wallet that gives shoppers more ways to pay at participating merchants. With Connect, Canadians can make fast and secure payments with an eligible credit card or with debit directly from a checking or savings account at participating financial institutions. Connect, Canada's way to pay. Visit connect.ca to learn more. It's interesting you talk about ranking. I used to do an XY axis kind of exercise where I'd say idea of how much money we're going to make from this thing and how hard it's going to be to do.
Yeah.
And just a simple kind of, okay, let's think about this because this seems like really, really hard, but is it worth it?
Yep.
And do you recommend tools like that as a starting point?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of matrices, a lot of different tools you can use to sort of help you get an idea of what's most important. But then what I say is, in the end, though,
force rank. You got to rank it somewhere.
Force rank it. You can't have 2 number 1s. 1, 2, 3. Make the hard choice up front. It will go down way better with your team later. So speaking of tools, you talk about the 6 C's of execution. So it's a bit of a memory test, I suppose, for you on a busy day. But what are the 6 C's? And if you could only focus, are they all equal, or are some of them more equal than others? I call it a system because they all work together. But it's 6 C's. It's in 2 phases. So the first phase is setting the stage, and the second phase is showtime. Within each of 6 is 3 C's. So in the setting the stage phase, we have co-creation, clarity, and capacity. That's, bring the people together, getting really clear on what it means, and why we're doing it, why it should mean something to people, and making the space for it. The second phase, showtime, is when we start to activate a little bit more. Communication, coordination, and coaching. And coaching, to me, is an aspect of leadership. It's an aspect of leadership that is active. You are actively managing this thing through the process.
Right. Let's talk about communication, because I think as I'm listening to you, reflecting on what you're saying, all weave through that, leadership. It is a lot about communication, about what's happening. So, we've been talking about quickly jumping to solutions. Is it just defining the real problem? Let's start before we even start in that room talking about strategies. Defining the problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what have you seen that kind of leads people astray when they start to... Do they find the wrong... How do they know they got the right problem isolated?
People tend to assume the problem and then start brainstorming the solution.
Right.
So I have a technique I like to use called the monkey cage session.
Right. I saw that. I thought of the Thunderdome, like with Mel Gibson in the old movie Thunderdome. Is that what that's like? Everybody gets in like a big cage with...
Well, kind of. I gave it a funny name because let me tell you what it is, and I'll tell you why I named it that. But what I do is I get a cross-sectional group of people in a room, and we're going to have a brainstorming session, but no solutions allowed, only problems. So honestly, it's kind of cathartic too. It's a license to bitch. And I'll stand at the whiteboard and I'll ask people to just start throwing out their problems, and that's why I call it the monkey cage session, because monkeys are famous for throwing their problems at the wall. Yeah. So but it's kind of unstructured, and then I just say just start throwing the problems out. Like, we're not going to get too worried about structuring them yet. No solutions, though. People always in those sessions
they migrate real quick. We're all solution oriented, right?
Yeah.
We're in leadership positions to solve problems.
Exactly.
So it's tough to not. Right. It's tough to put that instinct on hold.
It is very tough for people, and here's how usually people will phrase a problem as a lack of something. Our problem is we don't have a content management system. Well, that sounds
is that
like
really
a solution.
The problem?
What are you trying to solve? So I force them back through that, and what I find in that exercise by itself is, one, it's cathartic, but two, people start seeing different perspectives. They now start to understand these problems from different perspectives in different ways. And so what I'll do is do that initial session, then I take it back and categorize it. So I put a little structure on it, and I send it back out to people 2 days later, because people need these things to percolate a little bit. And then they have more things to put in there. Then we come together to solve. But oftentimes the solution is almost magically there because we've so well defined the problem.
Do you ever find in that monkey cage scenario that people are a little reticent to bring up issues? Sometimes in other people's departments, sometimes, if I bring up that issue in Bob's department, he's going to come after me. I mean, there's some human dynamics involved. Can you make a choice of, I'm going to have these individual things so I don't get that dynamic, or is it better to get it all in and hope is not a strategy, but you can corral that and everybody kind of is judgment free, so to speak, retribution free.
Yeah, one of the ways I get around that, because it is an issue, and I want to make sure people understand they're safe to say it. But what I say is, hey, your problem. Someone else might say that's not a problem, but if somebody perceives it as a problem, it's a problem. So we just have to recognize that rather than try to defend your turf that somebody said it was a problem, hey, they perceived it as a problem. So let's recognize that, and we'll figure out how we work through it. That usually works pretty well.
You break through that? Oh, that's good. That's good. What's the first question retailers should ask themselves? Do you even understand they're in a strategy trap? Do they even understand everything's going fine?
Is it?
Is it, though? Like, how do you begin that conversation? Like, you may be... Like, when you're engaging with your customers, are they calling you because we know we have a problem, or are they calling you, maybe it's a mix of both, and saying, we're not sure what's going on, we don't know if we have a problem or not, but can we start to surface it? What's that first question they should ask themselves?
The first question is, how's it going when you're implementing all these new things? Do you finish the year and start over a brand new strategy? Or are you continuing on with one because it's been working well? Are you getting the results that you anticipated you would get when you put the strategy together? How is team engagement? Are they fully engaged and pushing forward on this? Those are usually where you see things start to fall out. When you're making a new strategy every year, And
but to be fair to the operators, it's like, well, we didn't expect tariffs coming in this year, so. We didn't expect AI. Suddenly our customers are searching for us on, so it's a fairly dynamic environment. I mean, there's room in your model, I think, for that.
Absolutely.
What should I call recalibration, or just kind of like, hey, this didn't work because of an exogenous issue, not because the strategy was wrong. There's got to be a lot of thought put into that distinction, right?
That's correct. And I think you when you first build it, you want to sort of think about what's your North Star, if some tariff came in and it's knocking us off the path a little bit, is our North Star still the same? If it is, then we can pivot on the tariff thing and figure out another way to attack to it. A lot of times companies change their North Star. And if you're doing that, then I think you're
kind of lost. You're literally your magnetic north is kind of
exactly.
the compass is spinning and you don't know which way you're going.
Exactly.
All right, in the time left, let's go to rapid fire questions. Okay. All right. Yes or no, is speed more often an excuse for poor execution than competitive advantage?
Yes.
Oh. What's more dangerous for retailers right now, having too many strategies or pretending one strategy will suit and fix everything?
Too many strategies.
If you had to vanquish one common retail leadership habit tomorrow to improve execution, what would it be?
Deciding everything in a silo at the executive boardroom.
Finish this sentence. Retail strategies don't fail because of market conditions. They fail because leaders
don't create the internal workplace conditions.
It's such a treat to have you on the mic. I've been looking forward to this literally for months because we were going to talk earlier in the year, and you got a great new distributor on the book. And when does the book come out? And I suspect it can be found at all the usual places, but when does it come out?
The book comes out February 3rd.
Fantastic.
And it will be pretty much anywhere you can get books. So.
Excellent. And if people want to get in touch with you, you're a LinkedIn guy, what's the best way to get in touch?
I am on LinkedIn. That's a great place to get me. Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
well,
thank you, sir.
So great to see you in person here. I'm glad we could make this happen.
Yes, me too.
Very serendipitous. The timing all worked. And congratulations on writing the book. It's a big lift, and I've had a chance to go through it. I've had an earlier copy, and it's a great piece of work, so congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Continued success and safe travels.
All right, you too.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, give it a 5-star review and share with friends and colleagues in the retail industry. I'm Michael LeBlanc, award-winning media entrepreneur and senior retail advisor. You can learn more about me on LinkedIn, and be sure and tune in to the award-winning Remarkable Retail podcast with my partner Steve Dennis, and my Global E-commerce Leaders podcast with my partner Jim Okamura. Safe travels, everyone.